A component instance has a life cycle that starts when Angular initiates the component class and renders the component view along with its child views, and it ends when Angular destroys the component instance and removes its rendered template from the DOM. Lifecycle has hooks which are a special functionality in Angular that allow us to hook into and run code at a specific lifecycle event of a component or directive. The Angular manages the components and directives when it creates them, updates them, or destroys them. In a single component, you can have one or more lifecycle hooks using the Lifecycle Hook interfaces in the Angular core library. Each lifecycle hook interface defines a single hook method whose name is the interface name prefixed with ng. For example, the OnInit interface that you have already seen on the components generated by the Angular CLI, you have the OnInit interface, and for this interface you do have the hook method named ngOnInit. Angular has 8 important lifecycle hook interfaces which can be categorized based on the component type. For the normal components, we do have 4 lifecycle hook methods. We do have the ngOnChanges, and this is called when the input properties have changed. We do have the ngOnInit, and this is called on the component initialization. We do have the ngDoCheck, and this is used by developers when they want to have a custom change detection. And the last one is the ngOnDestroy. This is called immediately before Angular destroys the directive or the component. Now you can see here that we have the ngOnChanges and the ngDoCheck, and we said that both of them are used to detect changes. It's important to note that the ngOnChanges is called only when the data bound input is changed. The ngDoCheck, on the other hand, is called for every change detection. These are the 4 important lifecycle hook methods that are called. But before the component is destroyed, if you are rendering child components within your component, there are 4 more hook methods that you can use, which means that all these hook methods will be called after the ngDoCheck and before the component is destroyed, which calls the ngOnDestroy hook method. These are the ngAfterContentInit, and this is called when the component's content is initialized. We do have the ngAfterContentChecked. This is called when the component's content is updated or checked for updates. Then we do have the ngAfterViewInit, and this is called when the component's projected view has been initialized. And the last one before the component is destroyed is the ngAfterViewChecked, and this is called after the projected view has been checked. So based on what you're seeing here, the first event hook is the ngOnChanges, then we do have the ngOnInit, ngDoCheck, then we do have the AfterContentInit, AfterContentChecked, the AfterViewInit, and then the ngAfterViewChecked, and then the last one is the ngOnDestroy. So let us now go to our project and use some of these lifecycle hooks. So in here I'll just go to the components and then go to the details component, because from this component we are calling some child components. And you can see that by default we are already implementing the OnInit interface, and we said that for each interface we have the hook method and that it just starts with ng. So if I were to, for example, implement another interface, so let us say, for example, I want to implement the onChanges interface, then in line 8 I would have to define that I want to use the onChanges interface, and then for this interface I have to define the hook method, which is going to be the same name, so the interface name, but with the prefix ng. So ng, the onChanges, and this is going to be the method. Since this component also loads the child components, we can also type in here AfterContentInit. Then we can use the after content checked after view init. Let us actually remove the after content check and let us keep just the after content init and after view init. You are going to see that we have an error. That is because we are trying to implement the interfaces, but we do not have an implementation of these interfaces. You can simply click in here, you can hover in here, then go to the option suggestions, and it says implement the interface after content init. Let's go one more time. Implement the interface after view init. Now we are going to change the throw new error to just console.log. Gonna have in here this is called. Let's do the same for the after content init, and then for the ngInit, ng changes. Let us change the ordering based on the execution order. So we said that the first one is going to be the ngOnChanges. In this case, this one will not actually be executed because we have said that the ngOnChanges is called when the input properties have changed, but since we do not have any inputs or any properties, this will not be called. After the ngOnChanges, the ngOnInit is executed. Then the ng content init, so this one, and then the last one. And here, before we go to the app, let us check the names. So this one here needs to be ngOnChanges, this one needs to be ngOnInit, then this is fine. Let us also change the last one. Let us save the changes, and now let us go to the browser. Now here I'm just going to open the console window. You can either press F12 or just right click and then go to inspect, then go to the second one, the console one, and let us refresh the page. You can see that we have now 3 logs. The first one is the ngOnInit hook method. The second one is after the content init one, and the last one is after the view init. And as we said, the ngOnChanges is not called because we do not have an input property that could change in this view.